Oh, I think that's the heart of the passage is mutuality in a world and a society in particular in Corinth where sexuality was really distorted. And a couple things, some of the pushback I get from pastors and counselors is, denying sex or withholding sex as some kind of sinful event. They can't do that. And I'm like, well, the passage does say that you can separate for a time of prayer. And it seems like abuse, coercion, fear would be a great time to separate and consider what God has for this relationship. The other thing about the passage that strikes me, and this is a little bit of a stretch because you do have to, I don't think you argue from silence on this, but I do think there is a respect for silence you need to have. And that is just the seeming similarities between Paul's language in 1 Corinthians 7 and Moses's language in Exodus chapter 21, which is the case law passage about neglect. And there are really a lot of parallels. I think it'd be worth our time as pastors to spend some time comparing and contrasting. Obviously, Paul would have known Exodus 21. It would have been a very familiar part of his life, and it would make sense to let that inform his instruction for aspects of neglect, which he later goes on to refer to abandonment in the passage, which I think reflects what Moses talked about with neglect in Exodus 21. So there's a real interesting comparison to be made from Old Testament case law and God's protection of women in particular, and Paul's appeal to mutuality and mutual respect in 1 Corinthians 7, but also to the concept of the abandonment of an unbeliever. So, I mean, we won't go too deep into that, but there's just some interesting aspects that parallel there. And that's maybe a little bit more of a deeper discussion, a deep dive. But I would encourage pastors in particular that might stumble on onto this video, to kind of dig into that.